looked like. Sardis was a city on top of a hill. And on this hill, there was kind of a ramp on one side, sort of as the hill went down. But on the other three sides of the hill, it was just a cliff that just dropped right off. And so Sardis, at the top, they had the citadel at the top, and there was only one way to get to it. And they began to get overconfident and feel like they were secure up there on that hill. There were cliffs on all these sides. They only had to guard the one side that had the hill kind of ramping up to it. Twice in Sardis' history, the enemy power sent one person to scale the cliff on one side of the city, sneak his way in, and completely destroy them by those means. Somehow that one person was able to get in there and either kill a lot of the leaders or something, or open the front gate or whatever. I don't know the rest of the story. But twice in their history, once the Persians did it and then later on the Greeks did it, they sent one person to sneakily climb up that cliff and get inside. Overconfident is how you could describe them. And then the third thing about Sardis that you should understand is that Sardis built an elaborate temple to Artemis, but never finished it. They were lazy. You got these three facts about Sardis, okay? They were rich, they were overconfident, and they were lazy. Now let's look at the church there. Based on what Jesus says here, we can infer just a few simple facts about the church in Sardis. And the first thing that we can infer is that their reputation was either pretend or past. Their reputation was something that was either completely made up, completely fabricated, or it was all in their past. The wealth of Sardis was also in the past. Let's go on to the second fact for this church. Whatever good they did have was in danger. Jesus said, strengthen what remains and is about to die. Whatever they had that was left, whatever was good that was left, was about to die. Even though they might have been in a good place, it was about to die, kind of like the way the city had been overconfident. Then number 3, Jesus says, your deeds I have not found complete. Their deeds were incomplete. Kind of like that temple. They had built a temple to Artemis and never finished it. Listen, in this account, Jesus never tells us anything that the church at Sardis is doing particularly wrong. He never tells us something that they're doing wrong. He also never tells us something that they're doing right. The only indication we have about Sardis as a church is that they have mirrored the culture of the city around them. They are just as overconfident, relying on their past, and lazy as the rest of the culture around them. There's no distinguishing factor between them and the rest of the city. Now, this is something that fascinates me. Because I know for many of us here in this room, we like to blend into the culture. We like to be able to go and talk about the latest movies with people, and we like to be able to talk about the latest books and talk about the latest music and, all that kind of stuff. We like to be part of the culture because it makes us feel like we belong. But here's a church who had lost every bit of distinction from the culture. They were just blending right in. In fact, the way Jesus describes them is he says, wake up, which indicates to us that they were sleepwalking. Just like that lady. Sleepwalking as a church. What does that mean? Somehow, they were going through religious motions, but it was just a component of their life. It was just a part, just a piece. It was off to the side, and they might have gone to church and done their church thing and then come back, and it was just blah, and they're just going through the motions, and they're just sleepwalking. That's the most dangerous thing Jesus can say about a church and about a Christian. In 2 weeks, we're going to look at a church that Jesus calls lukewarm, a very similar problem to the church at Sardis. But here's another passage. Look on your note sheet at Matthew 5:13. It says, "You are the salt of the earth, but the salt, if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled by men." You and I are the salt of the earth. That means we're the ones that bring flavor. We're the ones that bring life. We're the ones that bring preservation to this world. And if we lose our saltiness, if we lose our flavor, if we lose our life, if we lose our preservative ability in this world, if we all of a sudden lose our taste, lose our distinctiveness from the rest of this world, then there's nothing good for us to be except trampled. That is a scary kind of thought. And Jesus says to these people in Sardis, "You are dead. Wake up." Obviously, they're not totally dead. They're kind of just hypnotized or something, because Jesus can say to them, "Strengthen what remains." Well, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you a diagnostic test on how you can determine if you're sleepwalking. If you're a Christian today and you want to know if you are sleepwalking, I have 5 quick tests for you. Here they are. Test number 1, I call it the pinch test. Test number 1 is the pinch test. I've never tried this before, but have you ever heard people say, "I think I'm dreaming, pinch me," whatever that phrase comes from? Apparently, if you're dreaming, then you can pinch yourself, and that does something for you. I imagine for some people, the pinch makes it hurt, and then they wake up. But this is what I think. I think most of the time, if you were to pinch yourself in a dream, it wouldn't feel right. It would feel completely different. Last night, I actually had a dream. I'm not joking. I had a dream where I was standing on a forklift, and we were in some type of warehouse, and the guy backed the forklift up a little bit, and there was a shelf, and I was on top of the forklift, and he backed it up so that I got pinned in front of the shelf, standing on top of this forklift. And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of uncomfortable." But it didn't really hurt. So I just kind of wiggled my way around, and I was fine. Here's the deal. The pinch test means something in your life should hurt, but it really doesn't. I'll give you an example. Do you ever feel pain over the condition of lost people in this world? The Bible tells us that people who don't know Jesus are going to hell. The Bible tells us that people who don't know Jesus don't have a relationship with their Father. The Bible tells us that people who don't know Jesus don't have the Spirit of God at work in their lives to give them joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. These people are missing out.